everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Phantom Airborne All The Way. I'm your host, Greg Stanley, and today I have with me Phantom's Brigade Chaplain, Chris Ferris. Welcome to the show, Chris.
How you doing, Greg? It's good to see you.
So let's get right into it. Let's start with your military background and service. So can you share a little bit about your military service, your branch, maybe your MOS, and where you served?
Sure. I entered into the United States Army in 1987. I was in until 1991. I was stationed in Fort Bragg the entire time, with the exception of some combat excursions, one being in Operation Just Cause in Panama in 89, and then Desert Storm, an 11 Hotel, 1 Papa Echo 2, which is a tow gunner, parachutist, and paratrooper, and Dragon Gunner. The Echo 2 is Dragon Gunner.
Tell us a little bit what inspired you to join the military.
If I had to be completely frank, a bit of a rough childhood growing up, and I was not a scholastic individual. I know that when I graduated, I could have probably squeezed into a junior college somewhere. I just did not see me in a college setting. And so I had always toyed with the idea of possibly going into the military, but I think it was a false threat for a long time when I was in junior high and high school. And one day I was working at a job at a Kentucky Fried Chicken after I had graduated high school. And I said, I'm definitely not going to be the senior district VP of this.
So let's talk about going the airborne route. So there are some of us who go down the MEPS and we're like, I'll only be airborne. And then there's some of us who go down there and they're just offered the airborne option. And it's like, okay, I'll do that. So what was it for you? How'd you wind up going the airborne route?
The guy's like, hey, any chance you want to be airborne? And I said, not particularly. And he goes, because we have some slots. And I was like, trying not to laugh. And I was like, I don't know about that. And he goes, here's your starting pay. And he showed me it was $500 and some bucks a month. Mm-hmm. And he said, but if you go airborne, I can get you a 20% bump at $110 a month. And I'm like, break out the pin.
Chris, what was one of your most memorable jumps or a memorable moment when you were in the military?
I can easily cite my one of my most memorable jumps. We were going out to California, 29 Palms, to do the national training thing for the year. We got up to jump. The doors were open, C-141. And I was exiting out the left door, and there was a guy on the other side who was an MP, a big, tall drink of water, probably like 6'3", but he was about just as wide. I don't understand how he's even in, but he was a thick dude. And we exited roughly at the same time. And I remember the chute opened, and it was very dark and peaceful. And then I heard this guy wailing and yelling, and I just go to look up, and he just slams right into me. He comes down at me at the top, and wraps up in my suspension lines. He starts to do the protocol with bicycling and kicking and doing the weaving, and he's kicking me in the head over and over again with his bicycling. So I'm seeing stars, and in addition to the real stars. And the next thing I know, my chute comes up a little further, and all of a sudden it squids. So I squidded about 3 stories is what it was about where I felt. Yeah, I completely squidded in. And when I woke up, I was laying in the desert. I knew my ankle was on fire. My neck was kind of janked up. That's all I remembered. I remember laying there, and I don't know how long I was out. And I remember there being a huge rattlesnake, like sitting there. And I'm just waiting for somebody to come find me because I'm just going, hey, I couldn't move very well. And I remember all I could do is I remember taking the flash suppressor off and unloading my magazine with blanks at this rattlesnake. And that's how they found me. But they've been looking for me for over an hour and a half.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so they came and got me, and they put me on a board in a Humvee ambulance, and I went to the hospital there. But I was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, and you're young, you'll just take some ibuprofen and be fine, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my most memorable.
Not service connected.
Not at all.
So, Chris, were there any leaders or fellow paratroopers that made a lasting impression on you?
In Panama, I would say one of the ones that had a big effect on me is Sergeant St. John. when we were there at Checkpoint, we were in Panama for Operation Just Cause, and our job was to secure Madden Dam, which is the major hydroelectrical plant in Panama that serviced Fort Sherman and other places. And we had a roadside explosion. Some PDF guys, Panamanian Defense Force guys, came through, and they had grenades. And when we were going to search them, they went ahead and popped them on us. They were pretty messed up. I was concussed, but no frag. And I remember him being stuck in a ditch, and there was just crossfire coming from everywhere. And I remember going and getting him and dragging him back and trying to patch him up. And they finally took him away. And I thought that he and another guy, Sergeant De La Rosa, I thought they were permanently done. I just didn't realize they were still able to manage things. But, years later, flash forward later, when we went to my friend Mark Harrop's funeral, I spoke at his funeral. Sergeant St. John got up, and I hadn't spoken to this man in 35 years. And he said, this guy right here, he was pointing to me, he said, I probably wouldn't be here today, but he came and got me and pulled me out of the crap and dragged me under the truck and all. And I just hadn't, but it just almost slayed me. Like I was crushed over.
Wow.
I mean, and that was better than any certificates or anything somebody would have or could have, or ribbons or awards or medals anybody could have given you when you're in,
Like all of us, eventually you had to hang up the uniform.
Yeah.
And you made that transition into civilian life. So talk a little bit about how that transition was for you.
So I got accepted to college up in northern West Virginia. I got accepted to a college, and I said, I think I'm going to go live a life. I didn't get smoked when I jumped into California. I managed through that, and managed through Panama with the grenade. I managed through some chemical stuff that happened to me with my lungs in the Gulf. And I said, wow, I have a chance at some maybe some longer life here. So I made the decision to go civilian and inactive reserve. And I ended up going back to West Virginia, going to college and working for a few years. I signed back up for the reserves of the National Guard for a very short time. Just out of nowhere, I just felt compelled to not continue that again. So I did not. And I ended up working in a variety of jobs, but most of my jobs related to me building businesses, buying businesses, a variety of different companies.
So talk about some of the challenges that you might have faced after the military, whether they might be personally, mentally, or professionally.
I found myself, with the day face when you're smiling and being super friendly, and then going into nighttime being moody, quiet, and withdrawn, and realizing that I was an introvert acting like an extrovert, just so nobody knew. I was embarrassed, so nobody knew how jacked up I might be. So I went back and started studying martial arts for several years, and then I had a school I was teaching martial arts. That helped me, but I still couldn't fill that void, because things would continue to rear up, especially if I was exhausted or I was sick or I was super stressed. I started becoming extremely overly vigilant and quite cantankerous, if I want to say a nicer word. And I knew I didn't like that person at all. I used to be a pretty fun-loving guy, and I realized that nothing was taking care of that. So achievement wasn't solving things, and trying to impress anybody with any advancement in my life was not impressing anybody, and it certainly wasn't helping me at all. It wasn't I mean, I could pay the bills, but it wasn't reconciling anything within me. And I said, man, there's got to be something else.
Chris, what were some of the lessons from your time in service and as a soldier that helped guide you after your time in service?
Pushing through hard times is always very it's more than possible. It's likely if you just don't stop. Having clear goals in front of you and following through by collecting whatever knowledge you need and actively applying it, and not just talking about what you might do next week.
Tell me a little bit about your faith during and after that period. Were you a religious man when you were in service? And tell me how your faith evolved after.
Religious, actually, that's a great way to say that. I think I might have been considered maybe a religious, but not practicing well. I remember leaving Fort Benning and going to church for a little. I mean, leaving Fort Benning, go to Fort Bragg, and I remember going and jumping on a church bus for the first month or so. But then other guys started to convince me that there were other fun things to do on the weekends. So I started participating in division life, so to speak, and did what guys do. And so I dropped off. And I would say I was still a believer, but doing nothing about it. And I knew there was something up there. I just didn't overly latch on to being with any kind of specific intention and focus to get to church anymore or anything. So it kind of went to the side. Sure, there was something there, but I wasn't doing anything about it.
All right, Chris, so let's talk about your discovery of Phantom Airborne. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit here. So let's talk about how you discovered Phantom. Tell us how you first heard about Phantom, and then what made you want to join.
Right around the COVID time, my unit, Delta Company era, 87 to 91, there started to be some meaningful get-togethers. We started friending each other on Facebook and discovered each other again after 30-some years. And so in that, a good friend of mine, his name is Nick Brainerd. And
Nick.
Yeah, he and I served together in Bragg.
I didn't know that. It's crazy how our paths cross all the time, and later on you find out he probably could have been standing right next to somebody that you're jumping with at Phantom. You could have been standing next to him 30 years ago, and you didn't even know it.
But Nick Brainerd had started posting these things about going to Normandy to jump with World War II things, and he had some other pictures of him in uniform. And of course, my natural thought is, is there National Guard for old people or something? Why? What are you doing? And he'd go, oh, I belong to a thing called the Phantom Airborne Brigade. And I think it's up near you somewhere. And I'm like, everything became about, wait, what? He said it's a wonderful thing. I said, I've got to try it. I've got to do this. Yeah. And so I paid the dues, found the uniform, and showed up.
You're at your first jump. What stood out to you about that experience compared to your time in uniform?
I've got, Hollywood jump. That came to me right away. This is fantastic. I used to love to do Hollywoods. Yeah. The thing that I remembered is just, I felt like when sustained was being given in the order that it's given by the jump master, it was like that echo just resonated from my guts. I was like a dog that was showing a card trick going, am I dreaming? It's like, I remember all this. Yeah. I remember the timbre, the beat, the phraseology, the barking, the whole, and then they say, hit it. And you're like, to hit it still. It's like, oh, I didn't fall off the bike. This might happen. I just remembered how anchored I felt immediately, and I hadn't listened to any of that stuff since I got out.
So that parlays me right into my next question, though. Well, I was going to ask you, how quickly did you feel that familiar sense of the brotherhood again when you arrived at Phantom?
I remember it doesn't matter if I knew anybody's face. It was this sense of like, that you've been with them forever.
Your role as the Phantom Airborne Brigade chaplain goes well beyond just saying a prayer for us before a jump. So let's talk about what that actually means for the members. So tell us, what types of support or services do you offer to the Phantom Airborne members, both on and off the drop zone?
I am I'm the chaplain here. I chaplain in a couple other places as well. For us, I will do the prayer. The guys seem to like the pastor that comes in from Leesburg and does the hurrah prayer. So I always encourage
Pastor JP.
Yep, Pastor Pete. That's right. And what I like doing is making sure he can get in there because I like the guys have a variety of exposures to people that can get around them. As I kept coming, I was finding ways to serve at Phantom. I said I would just simply say, where is nobody wanting to do something? Like, where is that? And then, of course, Scott was standing right there and said, I heard what you were thinking. And so I just started pitching in with Scott. What I find is my pastoral mindset in my heart kicks in with conversations all the time. I hear something, I can hear hurt. I can feel empathy. I'm very good at discerning that stuff. So it seemed like that informally was occurring, at Shoot Shakeout, down at the Tiki Place, on the airfield. Guys, you can see on their face, they're still kind of nervous about the jump. They're doing it, and we would encourage them. But but I did notice, I was like, well, who's the chaplain? They're like, well, we really don't have one. And I was like, okay, but who's really on the lookout for our guys? Because there's a lot more here going on than strapping up and falling out of an aircraft here. What I realized is if nobody's going to go there, and in the Bible it says, if I don't go, who will, right? And so I simply went to Chris one day. I said, who's really ministering to these guys? Who's really reaching out? I mean, I am informally. I said, I don't know who the chaplain is, but I haven't met him yet. And he goes, you got a mirror? And I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. So we had a conversation, and I decided that it's important. I feel like the Lord said it's important that you put up a front here and go to work.
When a member reaches out to you privately, what can they expect from that conversation?
Their ability to be able to say anything and everything they need to say. Mm-hmm. And with one caveat, that anything that they say to me is completely confidential unless they're going to hurt themselves or somebody else. Other than that, they are going to know that it's confidential, and that and they don't necessarily have to say everything here in this first meeting with me or first conversation with me. If they feel more comfortable texting, emailing, or writing, which some folks do, actually, they feel better than just saying things. They know that this is not something that's a one and done. They can keep calling me and checking in on me, and they say if it's emergency, don't email me, call me. I would say majority of the time, chaplaincy, Greg, is a ministry of presence. And you do. It's not complicated. It's not easy. In the same respect, some folks just need to vent and know they're going to talk to somebody, and it's not going to go around. It's not gossip. Yeah. It's not, there's no chance somebody can see them for less than who they are or look down on them, because it's not leaving me.
So, Chris, tell me, how do you usually approach topics like grief or faith or a personal struggle with a veteran who may not be religious but still needs some guidance?
If you are not, and I will tell you this now, if you're not necessarily, me, myself, you haven't figured it out, I'm actually a follower of Christ. I'm a Jesus Christ follower, Christian fella. But I do have somebody that calls me that's Muslim, and we have some fantastic and meaningful conversations. I have people that call me that are agnostic and or atheist. And it's still a job as a chaplain to minister to them where they're at and to, again, take them to the next place for them to get some healing and get some growth and get their wind up under them, get some wind in their lungs. They've had the wind knocked out of them. And oftentimes that leads to those deeper, meaningful spiritual conversations.
Chris, talk about your role in the community and the connection. How do you see your role in strengthening the sense of brotherhood across different generations of paratroopers? Because, we range in age anywhere from guys in their 30s up to guys in their 80s and even older than that.
One thing they have in common, as far as I can tell, is that they're all human regardless of the age. So we'll start there. We have a love for, the culture and the esprit de corps that comes with having that red beret. You're approaching human beings that have a lot of hope for something. A lot of these guys, this, Greg, so many guys show up and they're new, they jump, and it is revolutionary to their heart. Mm-hmm. Revolutionary. Yeah. Not just the thrill of falling out of it, but that they're brought back into that sense of, hey, I'm home, in a lot of ways. They have that home,
connection,
right?
And that bond. Chris, tell us a little bit about how you have organized some of the ceremonies, invocations, and memorial moments at Phantom Airborne.
For us, it hits on two levels. It's that moment where that need is, or that thing, honoring somebody, whether it's because they now passed and we want to honor them, or honor somebody because they've earned some recognition, respect, and love from their brothers and sisters for something they're doing currently and they're around. And it's easy when you Greg, when you really actually you love people, you care for them, or you have their best interest in mind. It's a very, again, it's not always easy because memorials aren't, but it's very simple. People need to hear hope. People want to be filled with encouragement. People want to know that they matter. And more importantly, they need to know who they're mattered by. Somebody genuinely matters, cares about. So in light of that, or wearing those glasses, again, it's very simple.
What would you say to connect with some of the members who may not be jumping anymore, but they still want to be part of the team?
I was on the building committee and the search property committee for the last couple of years. I think that a lot of these things are going to be realized because now we have a home. Their heart is, Chaplain, what else can we do with this property besides store and dry chutes? I'm working with folks to try to get some grants in here so that we can start putting together chaplain retreat weekends. Chaplain retreats, staying there. We have some RV hookups, tent space. The bathrooms that we're proposing are going to be bath houses where you have a couple of showers, the stalls, the toilets on both sides, so it's like a campground style bathhouse shower. And having getaways and retreats for those who support Phantom as well, for like the JOTC to come out and be able to do a sustained weekend, and putting in a mock door in our building. So we actually have a real mock door they can kind of come out of. And I have some big thoughts and plans on having a miniature tower coming off the top of the building with a zip line so guys can practice.
Stop teasing me, Chris.
No, I'm not kidding at all. These are all in the works. I said, if I'm going to work hard, if we're going to go, let's go all the way, right?
Let's do it. Yep.
No pun intended. Have the barbecue. Do some camping, do some things that guys get together, and we do more than just show up a weekend once a month. But there are going to be retreats where guys can, maybe it'll be a before or after a jump of some type, whether it's land or water, to where we can extend it or do something a few days before. I have a friend who owns a kayaking company that's on board with helping us meet in certain places to even go kayaking together. There's a lot of plans, and it all has to do with increased gathering, reasons to gather in community, and just getting to know each other more.
Okay, so let's talk about your personal message to the members. What would you like every Phantom Airborne member to know about your role as the chaplain?
That everybody needs somebody to connect with. Don't assume that you don't have an important value to the group. Somebody is going to relate to you just on the sheer basis that we are airborne folk, and everybody genuinely has the ability to plug in and connect to what this thing is. And I'm not even talking about the jumping out of the planes. Your passion can be realized and plugged into something that's going to have a long-term impact on the emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being of people that are quite possibly have been lost for the last 10, 15, 20, 35 years since they separated from active duty. And it's a chance for them to recapture them late teen years of your life and remember that you're still alive.
Tell me, how can members reach out to you if they need someone to talk to, whether it's about, their faith, their family, or just life, or something they're going through?
Yeah, friend me on Facebook. Right now, I friend anybody that's a Phantom member that knows at least a couple other folks. They can friend me through that. They can email, and I'll probably be getting an email. It's a Phantom email fairly soon anyway. But they can reach out to me on email or direct messenger.
Chris, what message would you share with those who might hesitate to seek guidance or spiritual support from the chaplain?
I want you to know that it's not going to be a religious zealot assault on you if you do reach out to the chaplain. I'm not going to over-religify anything. My goal is not to convert you for the first 5 minutes I talk to you or convince you that's where you need to be going. My goal is to get to the bottom of what might be hurting you.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with the hard question now.
Sure.
What do you hope to leave behind? Meaning, what kind of impact do you want your time as Phantom's chaplain to have on this organization?
I'd love to see a culture where people stay encouraging. Like I want folks to be comfortable with their natural inclination to be uplifting and encouraging with other people.
Being our brigade chaplain is a huge responsibility, but you're also a jumper. So, when you're on the drop zone, how do you balance that? How do you balance being a jumper and also being our chaplain?
I would lie if I didn't say that guys are really happy if I'm on their lift. They somehow think that that's somehow special.
Why are you never on my lift? All right, so let's talk about Phantom from your personal perspective. How has being a part of Phantom Airborne personally changed or strengthened you?
It reminds me that I'm not all done yet. I'm not all completely used up yet. So I would say that all the wonderful things about being airborne can be realized here without all the other things that are not extra special for our joints.
Talking about the Airborne Brotherhood. So what does it mean to you now compared to when you served? Because I know for me, it has a different feeling.
One of the things that I always kind of miss the fact that I didn't follow through with being a lifer, going to retire, seeing a lot more to express out that duty time and those process. I really, part of my heart wishes I would have went ahead and just stayed the course and was a lifer. I really do. And I didn't. And somehow it's like having one bookend here and all these books and no bookend over here. So they're constantly flopping over and you're always like, man, I wish I would have. And it's, you can't do that to yourself for too long. You drive yourself crazy. But I feel like this thing comes up alongside you and gets the other bookend on the other end here.
Chris, how do you see Phantom Airborne carrying that legacy forward for the future generations, long after you and I are gone from here, when they're talking about the old guys from back in the day and they're mentioning Chris Ferris and they're mentioning Greg Stanley, those guys are dead and they're gone. How do you see Phantom Airborne continuing to carry that legacy for those future generations?
Now that we have a home, I think it is just our messages can be clearer. If the Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, if you build it, they'll come, right?
Right.
And we're building this now. It's happening. It's not theory. The place is coming into fruition. We have a home now, just like when you go to Fort Bragg and it says Home of the Airborne, it's like we have that now to put up that sign and say Home of the Phantom Airborne, right?
Yeah.
And
love that. Okay, Chris. So last question before we let you go.
Yes, sir.
What message would you share with the veterans who are sitting at home? They miss the Airborne Brotherhood and they're unsure about joining Phantom.
If you love your brothers, don't come to jump. Come to circulate. Come to watch the jump or jumps. Come to help us do those things that are necessary for us to have a successful mission, because there's a place for you to plug into the mission that has nothing to do with you flailing out of a plane. And allow yourself, especially if you're apprehensive, allow yourself to become comfortable and be encouraged by others to possibly have you jump again. But showing up to jump is not necessary to be part of the family. Chaplain
Ferris, thank you so much for all that you do for Phantom Airborne. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your friendship. Until next time, guys, remember, Phantom Airborne all the way.
All the way. Love you guys.